Maybe we're not the only ones watching the sky. Perhaps we've already been visited without realizing it. For many, sightings of UFOs and alien-like beings suggest this possibility. Although there are various theories, one of the most widely supported is that these are spacecraft and intelligent entities from other worlds. In this documentary, we will unveil fascinating UFO cases, featuring numerous incidents involving humanoid beings. Many of these accounts come from declassified files, released after being kept secret for decades. The Calvine Incident. In the summer of 1948, something extraordinary took place at a Russian military base. Calvine, the Soviet equivalent of Area 51, served as a testing site for missiles and advanced technology under strict surveillance. One afternoon, radar systems detected something unusual in the sky. A UFO moving at high speed. Radar operators alerted the officers, who quickly dispatched a fighter jet to intercept the target. Following orders, the pilot approached the object and was stunned by what he saw. It was a massive metallic, disc-shaped craft. It moved with remarkable agility, making turns that seemed physically impossible. Upon receiving the command, the pilot opened fire, and the craft began to lose altitude, spiraling downward. It crashed near the Calvine base, prompting an immediate military response. The wreckage, partially destroyed, displayed technology unlike anything known at the time. According to reports leaked years later, inside the craft were small beings with large heads and dark eyes. Soviet authorities quickly secured the area, transferring the remains of the craft to an underground facility within the base. It has been claimed that both the wreckage and its occupants were examined at Calvine, with efforts made to replicate the technology. This military base is real. Established in 1946 as a missile and rocket testing site, however, to this day, no official documentation confirms that this incident ever took place. The being of the Spanish Air Base. On the night of November 12, 1976, at Talavera La Real Air Base in Spain, 3 soldiers were on patrol alongside a German Shepherd. They heard a noise similar to static interference, followed by a sharp, high-pitched beep. Seconds later, a light entered the perimeter of the airbase. The soldiers believed it was a terrorist attack. The country was going through a period of political instability and heightened security concerns. Feeling uneasy, they tried to contact the base, but at that moment, something unsettling happened. After the sound of branches snapping, they spotted a towering humanoid figure with elongated arms and a soft green glow. One witness claimed it was wearing a tight metallic suit with its head covered by what appeared to be a black helmet. The dog attempted to approach the figure, but an invisible barrier seemed to block its path. Then, the being made a sudden movement, and one soldier collapsed to the ground. His fellow troops reacted by firing hundreds of rounds at it. Unexpectedly, its glow intensified before vanishing completely. 3 of the military witnesses fell into comas, and 1 later developed neurodegenerative diseases. In 2016, Spain's Ministry of Defense declassified this case, along with dozens of other files. The Creatures of Brazil. On January 20, 1996, in the city of Varginha, Brazil, an event took place that left everyone baffled. It was a cloudy morning, typical of the rainy season. 3 women, aged 14 to 22, were walking through an open field when something caught their attention. A strange creature with brown skin and red eyes was crouched near a wall. It was a small being with an oversized head and protrusions on its forehead. The young women fled in terror, rushing to tell their families what they had just witnessed. Shortly after, local authorities arrived and immediately sealed off the area. Witnesses reported seeing Brazilian military vehicles transporting an unidentified object. In the hours that followed, rumors spread that additional creatures had been captured in the city. There was talk of an injured being taken to a medical facility under heavy security. Fear spread quickly, and the media began covering the event with intense interest. The Brazilian government denied any contact with extraterrestrial beings, attributing the panic to a misunderstanding. The aquatic humanoids of Lake Baikal. In the summer of 1982, a group of Soviet military divers was conducting exercises in Lake Baikal when something completely unexpected happened. During a deep dive, they encountered towering humanoid beings. These figures stood nearly 10 feet tall, clad in tight-fitting silver suits with black helmet-like spheres covering their heads. Despite the frigid waters, the humanoids moved effortlessly, as if they belonged to the environment. Amazed, the divers attempted to get closer for a better look. After reporting the sighting to their superiors, a commanding officer gave the order to capture one of them. However, without warning, an invisible force pushed them back, and the divers were suddenly propelled toward the surface. This caused severe decompression sickness. 3 of the military personnel lost their lives, while 4 survived with serious aftereffects. The incident was swiftly covered up, but rumors began circulating among soldiers and scientists. Reports of underwater beings, along with various UFO sightings, fueled speculation about the possible existence of alien bases within the lake. Some suggest these entities have coexisted with humans for millennia, or may have even preceded us on Earth. It is worth noting that the military may not have chosen their training dive locations at random. According to local residents, glowing silver discs are sometimes seen plunging into the water or emerging with a thunderous roar. The Zimbabwe Encounter. On the morning of September 16, 1994, in the quiet rural countryside of Zimbabwe, something extraordinary was about to unfold. At Ariel School, located in Ruwa, southeast of Harare, the usual calm of a school day filled the air. Children played in the yard, laughing and enjoying their break. Without warning, a metallic-looking craft emerged from the clouds. It descended smoothly, coming to rest in a wooded area near the school. The children, astonished, watched as it settled on the ground. Several small humanoid figures stepped out of the craft. They had large dark eyes and slightly elongated heads. The children stood frozen as the beings moved across the terrain. One of them approached, gazing intently and conveying a silent message. The children described feeling a telepathic connection, receiving a warning about the planet's future. Then, just as suddenly as they arrived, the beings returned to their craft and vanished into the sky. Local authorities were notified, though few took the children's words seriously. However, their accounts were so consistent that researchers from around the world grew interested. The children were interviewed multiple times, yet their stories remained unchanged. It all started one night when unknown lights appeared over the town. Described as spheres that changed colors, they flew low over the houses. But these weren't just sightings, they actively pursued people. According to witnesses, the lights fired beams at them, causing burns, dizziness, and exhaustion. Nearly every night they returned, forcing residents to stay indoors after sunset. Some began sleeping in groups or arming themselves, believing they were under attack by the mysterious lights. As fear escalated, Brazilian authorities decided to step in. The Brazilian Air Force launched an investigation under the codename Operação Prato. Military personnel arrived equipped with cameras, radar systems, and weapons, determined to uncover the truth. For weeks, they witnessed the inexplicable firsthand. These lights performed impossible maneuvers, directing beams at civilians. Officers documented the phenomenon through photographs and testimonies, yet they were unable to determine its origin. Months later, the strange lights ceased their harassment of the island's inhabitants. The official report from the operation was classified and remained secret for years. Decades later, portions of Operação Prato's files were declassified. Captain Irange Holanda stated that he had personally observed luminous objects executing maneuvers that suggested intelligent control. The ancestral incident of Japan. In 1803, off the coast of Hitachi, Japan, a group of fishermen discovered a mysterious vessel floating at sea. They called it Utsurobyun, or hollow ship. It was circular in shape, featuring glass windows and metallic panels. Some have speculated that illustrations from the 1840s depict symbols resembling those seen in the Rendlesham Forest incident. As the fishermen drew closer, they found a woman inside, dressed in unusual clothing and clutching a box she refused to let anyone touch. The fisherman attempted to communicate, but she did not speak Japanese. Japanese historians consider the story part of local folklore, yet some ufologists argue it could have been an encounter with an extraterrestrial being and its craft. The Scotland UFO photographs. In August 1990, something unusual took place near the town of Calvine, Scotland. 2 men hiking through the hills spotted a strange object in the sky. It was a massive diamond-shaped craft hovering in complete silence. Stunned, they quickly snapped several photographs of the object. As they watched in disbelief, a military jet approached the scene. The craft remained motionless for a few minutes before ascending rapidly and vanishing. The men handed their photographs to a local newspaper, which then forwarded them to the Ministry of Defense. However, the images were never officially released and remained classified for years. In 2022, one of the photographs was finally unveiled, revealing the object in striking detail. They have been described as the clearest and most credible UFO photographs ever taken. The image, provided by Craig Lindsay, is an authentic copy of the original photo analyzed by the UK Ministry of Defence in 1990. No evidence of tampering was found in either the photograph or the print. The UFO pursuit in Peru. In 1980, near Arequipa, Peru, at La Jolla Air Base, an unidentified flying object was detected. Around 1,800 people on the base witnessed it. A spherical craft hovering motionless in the sky. Believing it to be espionage technology, the commanding officer ordered a Sukhoi Su-22 fighter jet to take off and intercept. The pilot, Oscar Santamaria, spotted the object in the sky. It resembled a glowing balloon, but something felt off. It was a round silver craft with a transparent dome on top, lacking windows or any visible propulsion system. As he approached, the pilot fired a burst of 64 rounds, yet the craft showed no signs of damage. According to his account, he believed some bullets had hit the target, but they seemed to be absorbed by the sphere. The UFO moved with incredible agility, shifting direction and altitude rapidly, outmaneuvering the fighter jet. For 22 minutes, he attempted to chase the object, but it suddenly accelerated upward and vanished into the sky. To this day, this remains one of the rare instances where a human pilot has opened fire on a UFO. The Washington D.C. UFOs. For 2 consecutive weekends, Washington, D.C. witnessed a series of UFO sightings that sparked controversy and fear. On the night of July 19, 1952, the skies over the U.S. Capitol were clear. Radar screens at Washington National Airport and Andrews Air Force Base began detecting multiple unidentified objects. They appeared and vanished erratically, moving at astonishing speeds with no discernible pattern. Air traffic controllers, baffled, attempted to make contact but received no response. The phenomenon persisted into the early hours, with several commercial pilots reporting lights performing extraordinary maneuvers. Panic started to spread as news of the sightings reached the media. The city seemed to be under some form of extraterrestrial surveillance. On July 26, the lights returned, this time in even greater numbers. At that point, the Air Force decided to intervene, scrambling 2 F-94 Starfire jets to intercept the objects. As the pilots approached, they saw flashes of light, yet each time they tried to close in, the UFOs darted away at incredible speeds. To reassure the public, the Air Force held a press conference on July 29. General John Samford, Director of Intelligence, claimed that the radar-detected objects were pranks, misidentified aircraft, or electrical phenomena. The Roswell Incident. In July 1947, something extraordinary happened on the plains of New Mexico, United States. A rancher named Mac Brazel stumbled upon strange debris on his property in Corona, near the town of Roswell. The wreckage included metallic sheets, rubber strips, and small fragments unlike anything he had seen before. Curious, Brazel took some pieces to the sheriff's office, who then contacted the nearby Army Air Base. An intelligence officer from the base, Major Jesse Marcel, was dispatched to investigate the site. On July 8, 1947, a military press release announced that a flying saucer had been recovered. However, the very next day, the story changed. The wreckage was now said to be from a weather balloon. Major Marcel later displayed some debris to the press, which appeared ordinary and not of extraterrestrial origin. Following the official explanation, the Roswell case faded from public memory, only to resurface in 1978. Researcher Stanton Friedman interviewed Major Marcel, who claimed the debris was alien and that the government had covered it up. He described a metallic sheet that crumpled easily but returned to its original shape when released. Years later, his son, Jesse Marcel Jr., stated that his father had shown him extraterrestrial wreckage, including one piece with strange symbols. By the 1980s, new witnesses emerged, claiming that alien bodies had also been recovered. In 1989, Glenn Dennis, a mortuary employee in Roswell, said the military had called him asking about small airtight coffins. During the 1990s, additional witnesses came forward, alleging they had seen extraterrestrial bodies in hangars or military trucks. In 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report reaffirming that the wreckage was part of Project Mogul, a classified balloon program. By 1997, a second report dismissed claims of alien bodies, explaining that the figures people saw were actually test dummies used in parachute experiments. The Lonnie Zamora case. On April 24, 1964, in Socorro, New Mexico, Police officer Lonnie Zamora was patrolling the streets late in the afternoon. Suddenly, a deafening roar and a bright flash in the sky caught his attention. Believing it to be an explosion or a car crash, Zamora drove toward the source of the sound, heading into a remote desert area. Upon arrival, he was stunned. A metallic, egg-shaped craft was resting on the ground, with two humanoid figures nearby. The beings were small, dressed in gleaming suits. Dumbfounded, Zamora watched as they hurried into the craft and disappeared inside. Moments later, a thunderous blast erupted as the craft began to ascend. A blue flame shot from its underside before it accelerated and vanished from sight. Investigators from the Air Force and Project Blue Book examined the site, yet they failed to provide a definitive explanation. The Pascagoula abduction. On October 11, 1973, in the quiet town of Pascagoula, Mississippi, an event unfolded that left a lasting mark on the lives of two men. It was a clear night when Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker, two shipyard workers, decided to go fishing along the Pascagoula River. Out of nowhere, a brilliant blue light appeared in the sky, speeding toward them. Frozen in disbelief, they watched as an oval-shaped craft descended and hovered just above the water, not far from where they stood. The object floated silently, casting a glow that illuminated the entire area. Before they could react, a hatch opened, and three entities drifted toward them. The beings stood around 5 feet tall, with grayish skin and elongated limbs ending in claw-like hands. Their heads lacked visible eyes, instead featuring 3 long, cone-shaped protrusions where ears and a nose would normally be. Both men found themselves paralyzed, unable to resist as the entities carried them inside the craft. Once inside, they were separated and subjected to what seemed like medical examinations. Hickson described being scanned by a floating, eye-like device that emitted a sweeping light over his body. Parker, however, recalled fewer details, stating he was in shock, barely conscious throughout the ordeal. After what felt like an eternity, they were taken back to the dock and released before the craft swiftly ascended and vanished. At first, authorities were skeptical, but the raw emotion in their accounts convinced officers that something unusual had occurred. Both men later underwent a polygraph test, which suggested they were telling the truth. The Kelly Hopkinsville encounter. On August 21, 1955, at an isolated farm in Kentucky, a family experienced a night that defied all logic. It was a sweltering summer Sunday, and the Sutton family, along with some friends, was enjoying a peaceful evening. A sudden flash in the sky caught their attention, followed by an object descending into the nearby woods. Billy Ray Taylor, one of the guests, stepped outside to investigate. When he returned, pale and shaken, he claimed to have seen a flying saucer land behind the house. Skeptical, the others followed him outside, only to witness something that sent chills down their spines. Small figures began emerging from the darkness. The creatures stood about 3 feet tall, with pointed ears, glowing eyes, and elongated arms. Slowly they advanced toward the house. Terrified, the men grabbed rifles and fired, but the bullets seemed to bounce off their bodies as if they were shielded. The family retreated indoors, barricading the doors and windows while the entities attempted to enter. For hours, the Suttons and their guests remained trapped, listening to footsteps and scratching sounds on the roof and walls. Eventually, the beings slipped away into the night. When the police arrived, they found no sign of the intruders, only strange ground markings and evidence of the family's frantic attempt to defend themselves. This concludes part 1 of our video. In part 2, which will be available tomorrow, we will continue from exactly where we left off and explore the next cases in this series. If you found this video interesting, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it, as more content like this is coming very soon. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue with part 2 tomorrow.